Hello everybody and welcome back to Path of Exile 2. I wanted to take a minute to just kind of go over my latest thoughts on the 0.3 update to the game. Overall, how I feel about everything and, just kind of rave a little bit about the changes that have been made recently because I've finally reached the point now where I have no desire to return to Path of Exile 1. There's nothing about Path of Exile 1 anymore that really captures my attention in a way that makes me want to walk away from this particular game. There's things about, I don't know, the way they have it now is just, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy. I mean, there's still a few little things that are really kind of grating on my nerves, and I know they'll be fixed. A couple of them are just programming issues and infrastructure issues and things like that. There's one major kind of design philosophy perspective that kind of irritates me that I would like to see them change, but I don't know if they're going to. So we'll talk about those things. Mostly I just want to talk about how I feel like the latest patch to this game is a massive positive update. And the argument from people is typically going to be, well, it's early access and the game's only going to get better and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, sort of. The issue I had when the game first released was that the vision of the game seemed to be something where they were really trying to go out of their way to make the game feel slow and plodding and just really, just agonizingly slow to play. It felt like you were playing the game with chains hanging all around, heavy chains hanging all over your body, and it just really, really sucked. And the sprint function is just an amazing addition that has completely revitalized my feeling of just like getting stuff done in the game. The ability to just run around at this enhanced speed here, and then all I have to do is just kind of slow down when I'm ready to do stuff. It's a night and day difference for me, and my attitude towards the game has shifted quite a lot now that I have the ability to just dash around whenever I need to. I don't know if the base movement in this game is actually slower than in the original Path of Exile game, but it has always massively felt that way. And there hasn't been, and I think a lot of it is just the fact that there haven't been any like really reliable and usable movement enhancing effects like there are in Path of Exile 1. So you get to the point where you're zipping around the map in Path of Exile 1, and then you come over to here to this, and it's just like, oh my god, it takes forever to get anywhere. But now that we can sprint around everywhere, it's a massive change for me. And I know a lot of people don't like the mechanics. I personally feel like the massive heavy stun on getting hit is a little bit obnoxious. If you're careful, you almost never run into it. I almost never get hit by it anymore, especially now that they've added the new immunity for when you're dodge rolling, and it takes a second of sprinting for you to actually get stunned. So that's helped out a fair bit, but I still feel like, yeah, I'm fine with getting knocked out of your sprint. I don't feel like getting knocked down for the duration that we do is reasonable. I do think it's something that should change. But outside of that, the slow turn rate doesn't really bother me. It's, it kind of makes sense if you're sprinting that you can't just like turn on a dime, and you can always just dodge roll in a new direction if you want to change where you're going. So it's not that big of a deal to me. And just the ability to just cover distance now, I don't know, that is the biggest change that they've made outside of the trade system that has, made me not hate logging into the game. Being able to just get places is really, really important to me, and it's really important to a lot of people with all the complaints that there have been about movement speed. So having the ability to just go and get places without having to, have the ridiculously slow speeds that we had before is just a massive weight off of our shoulders. And then the other big thing that really bothered me about both games was just the trading in this game. I don't even really stock up on currency that much anymore, except for like trying to grab some chaos orbs. For the most part, I'm just farming stuff so I can convert them into chaos orbs, because trade has become such a, I don't want to say it's an enjoyable experience, but man, it is not a negative experience anymore. It is absolutely when I need something, I can just hop in here, go find it, and then I'm immediately able to find the item that I want, and then I go get it. I don't have to wait on people. Like, if you've watched my content in the past, you know that my biggest complaint, and I complained about it a lot, was the fact that, you know, I'd love to get great gear, but even trading for it just really sucks because you have to wait on people, you send a message, and blah, 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 right? The trade system as it exists right now, if they never ever change it ever again, if they never update it, if they never improve it, if they never do anything to it, I will be content because I am content. I can't think of anything that they could do to the trade system at this point to make it better than it is. It feels like it has been optimized to the point where even me, as somebody who looks and finds flaws in systems and processes and things like that, and I have this need to like identify them and fix them, and dude, you need to fix them too. I look at this system, it's such a clean interface, it works, and I never find myself in a process saying, man, I wish it worked this way. It just works. And in a world today where it feels like so many things just kind of don't work the way they used to in the past, it feels like somebody sat down and actually put some thought and effort and time into developing this into something where you as a user don't have to think about anything. You just use the system. And I appreciate when people do that. Many of my problems with the game itself have to do with the fact that because development time is so expensive, the developers seem like they don't put a lot of thought and effort into optimizing things. Not just, you know, interfaces and things like that, but just gameplay in general. Optimizing things so that you don't have the player being annoyed because something works a way that maybe wasn't intended, or maybe it was intended, but it's working in a way that's really screwing with the player, and, you know, it should have been thought of, it should have been caught, it should have been caught in the testing phase of things, you know, stuff like that. So it's really, really nice and, you know, nice, I don't know. It's gratifying to be able to get into the game and have something like this that just works exactly as intended, has no fluff, it just does what it's supposed to do, and it does it correctly with no issues. And I don't know. I can't say enough positive about the trade system in this game. It's massive. And then I have to say that the builds that I have right now, like if we obviously have this character here, right? This is my Firebringer build, and we're able to pop a couple of things in there, and we got a bunch of fire running around, and this character is really fun. There's a lot of big AoE damage. Now, obviously, all of my builds that I have right now, I got from other people, but I have to say the builds that are available right now feel like they're a lot more fun, and they're a lot more, I don't want to say responsive, but they feel really nice. Now, okay, I'm going to say a lot of how nice it feels is due to the sprint factor. The fact that you're able to hop in, destroy a pack of mobs, and then immediately run and dash towards the next pack, and then go and destroy a pack of mobs, and then immediately run. The downtime is cut down quite a lot when you're able to just kind of sprint from one group of mobs to the other. It's really nice that we're able to do that. But at the same time, just the fact that, you know, we have all of these new options for things that we can do to make, you know, AoE and clearing out packs and stuff like that really nice. And I can sit here and I can just drop down a bunch of stuff, and it just goes. Now, a lot of that has to do with the build creators and their ability to, you know, look at the passive trees and all of our gear and all of that stuff and kind of synergize all of that together to make it work the right way. But the options have to be there first, and it feels like the abilities that we have now and the way that they're balanced, for the most part, is pretty good. I have to say that for my the one disappointment that I really have is my Acolyte of Chayula monk. I really wanted to figure out a way to make him, you know, Kung Fu master, and the only thing we've really been able to figure out is just, you know, throwing out a bunch of lightning. And while, yeah, it's technically listed as a melee ability, it's a ranged attack. It's really just a ranged attack. I want my guy to jump in there and start doing a bunch of stuff, and there is an Ice Strike build that kind of does that, but I really would like to see more options for chaos-related things so that we can really lean into the Acolyte of Chayula, because I would really love to have a Shadow Monk that does shadow damage and has shadowy attacks that he's capable of doing. But I personally, I've tried to sit down and figure it out, but I can't figure out a way to make the couple of things that it has available kind of work. And yeah, there's a bunch of chaos stuff here, but it's all spell casting stuff, and there's not very much in the way of, like, you know, I don't know. There's not really much in the way of, like, melee or close range or anything like that. I think a lot of it could be fixed if they adjusted the way that Hand of Chayula worked. Instead of making it only work with curses and marks, if they just made it to where you could use it with any kind of damage over time ability. I don't know. Or if they, I mean, honestly, because what I'd like to see is, I'd love to be able to see if I could have, like, my favorite thing when I'm doing, like, the Essence Drain Lich is drop Contagion, drop Essence Drain, and then just watch them all melt to death, right? And that's really nice. I would love it if I could socket these two, if they added a curse, if they added the curse effect to this, so that you could socket them specifically into Hand of Chayula. You could dash in there with a Hand of Chayula, instantly apply Contagion and Essence Drain to the target that you hit, dodge back, and then I don't know, maybe do something else. I don't know. All I'm saying is that it would be really nice if, like, if we could actually use Hand of Chayula for a little bit more than just applying curses, because I'd love to be able to apply curses and all that stuff. But imagine running around as a monk with a Hand of Chayula, and then your Hand of Chayula is applying Contagion and Essence Drain, and then you have Despair, where you're walking around with, or you have what's the one with the aura, the Spirit Gem? It went away. And the more I try to think of Blasphemy, if you have Blasphemy socketed with Despair and maybe Despair and Temporal Chains to slow them down, like, I would love to make the melee. I would love to make a melee version of the Essence Drain Lich with my Shadow Monk. I think that would be really, really cool. You know, you just dash in there with your Hand of Chayula. It applies Contagion and Essence Drain, and then, you know, you have your Despair, so you're staying in close, and then, you know, you have some kind of other ability that you're some kind of direct damage ability that you're using while you're doing that. I don't know, maybe Mantra of Destruction. I don't know. You'd have to figure out something so you could stick with the Shadow theme, but that's kind of my point. It's like, it would be really nice to be able to have something like that. So I don't know how they could change that. I think that's an option. But yeah, that's my one disappointment when it comes to the leagues, the setup so far. I like the idea of the Acolyte of Chayula. It's just, and I actually kind of like the abilities that they have in here. It's just, there's not enough outside of the specific, like, I think the Ascendancy is good as it is. There's just not enough outside it to complement the Ascendancy, to work with the Ascendancy, to make it worth your time. And that's kind of the issue. So I think there needs to be a little bit more time and thought and effort put into figuring out how to, you know, make sure that everything is fleshed out. They're still working on it, I guess, but the Monk's been out for a while. The Acolyte of Chayula's been out for a while. The idea of having a chaos or darkness-based kind of dude, you know, has been here for a while, and I don't understand why it's still taking them so long to kind of figure out how to make this Ascendancy actually shine. The Invoker does really well. This one, not so much. But mostly this video is just me trying to, you know, talk about the difference in how I feel about the game from when it started to where it is now. And most of that comes down to the fact that they've relented a little bit on the vision that they started with. They wanted this slow, meaningful combat thing where you were going to run around and it felt like every fight actually kind of mattered. But they finally kind of seems like they realized that that's just not something that you can do while using this particular format unless you're going to drastically change the actual format of the game. Now, I have no problem with the idea of slower, more meaningful combat. And I've said from the beginning that that would be fine if they slowed the monsters down and had far fewer of them that gave you more experience points, so that the same amount of time put in the game gives you the same amount of progression. You're just you're fighting harder monsters that give more experience points, and you're fighting less of them to get the same progress in the same amount of time. You're just fighting fewer monsters, and the monsters are a little bit more difficult. I would be fine with that as a concept. It's just they don't seem to want to do the second part of it, where it's like, yeah, the combat's slower. They tried to start with that, but then they didn't limit the number of monsters, and they didn't make it so that, you know, each of those combat encounters were more meaningful, and the way you do that is by fewer monsters that are stronger. So the white monsters, maybe there's 2 or 3 of those. Maybe the white monsters are as strong as blue monsters are now. The blue monsters are as strong as rares are now. The rares are a little bit stronger than they are now, and there's only like, you know, one of those every once in a while. And then, you know, every once in a while you fight an act boss or something like, I don't know, something like that. I would be fine with something like that, so long as the experience points and all of that, and, you know, you didn't have a million monsters piling on you while they're difficult, right? I would be fine with that. They just didn't seem to want to do that. They still want to have massive packs of monsters running across the screen, and I'm totally fine with that. That's a very Path of Exile 1 way of doing it. I'm kind of cool either way, and they seem to be leaning back towards the Path of Exile 1 way of doing things, which is good because they don't want to change. They don't want to change the fundamental way that everything works, and so good. They've backed off of this slow and deliberate combat thing that they've been really trying to push from the beginning. And I think that for me, at least, that is the biggest reason why the game feels so good to play now. Partially, yeah, it's because, yeah, it's early access and they're still developing the game and figuring out what works. But I think, excuse me, the vast majority of it is just the fact that they've changed their mind on a bunch of stuff. And the things that they've changed their mind on have made the game feel so much better to play, and it makes you feel far more connected to the game and to your character and to all of the things that you're interacting with. And that's really what makes a great game. It isn't having a vision and sticking to it. It's providing a product that people enjoy, and it seems like they are, you know, in patch 0.3, they've gone out of their way to try to provide us with all of the things we've been asking for this whole time, and it is much appreciated. And the game does feel far, far better and more rewarding because of it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. For once, you guys are getting a totally positive video out of me because I'm really happy with the direction that things are going. I'm looking forward to seeing the new acts. Having played through Act 4 a few times, I'm much less... I don't know. I still feel like it takes too long to get through it, especially when they're going to add Acts 5 and 6. I still think it takes too long to get through the campaign. And I've been through the campaign a bunch of times now, so I don't know. I don't know how they're going to balance that. I don't think it should take you, you know, 20, 25 hours to get through the campaign. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to me. But I can live with it, I guess. I've done it 4 times now, and it's not that bad. It's just... By the time I get to the interludes, I'm just like, oh, I'm tired. I just want to get the maps. I don't know. But yeah, for the most part, you guys are getting a positive video out of me. I'm very, very happy with the direction that things are going. I'm very, very happy with the things that have been added to the game. I'm happy with all of my characters. I've even fixed the survivability issues on my warrior at this point. And I recently got a new weapon, which drastically increased it. Like, it more than doubled the damage for my Sunder and for all of this stuff here. Like this was at like 13, it did more than double. This was at like 13,000, then my hammer bumped it up to 20, whatever this was, it bumped it up to 28. Massive changes, and now, and the armor, the shield, and well, the shield basically, and the change over to Renly's training rather than Jade Heritage has drastically made survivability for this character way better. So even when you guys heard me complaining about, you know, I wanted to rotate this character out, now I'm having fun with him again because it works now. So I have 4 different characters here that I'm playing. I have my Stormweaver that throws out a bunch of orbs and teleports and explodes everybody. Firebringer, you saw me just throwing out a bunch of fire here. Minion Army Infernalist, massive number of minions there that allows us to throw a bunch of stuff, or throw a bunch of minions around. And minions are, minions are so much better in this game now. They teleport to you when they get too far away. The revive has been adjusted so that it's not quite as obnoxious as it used to be. And they actually do a lot of damage. Like I'm able to clear things out pretty quickly with these guys. It's really nice. Minions have become something that's really, really nice to do. And you're still interacting with all of this stuff because they have a bunch of abilities that you can activate. And because we have so many of them, there's a bunch of different things we can do to make our participation in the fights really, really nice. So yeah, pretty much everything with the game at this point. I have few complaints. I still feel like the ability to create your own build, if you don't know enough, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. It requires a lot of, you know, prior knowledge and research and tinkering around with things. And as somebody who doesn't really enjoy that part of the game, I'm never really going to be into that. So I'm always going to end up having to wait on builds to come out because I don't have I have ADD or something. I just can't sit down and focus on something like that. I just want to get in and play, and I have a hard time with that. So I would love it if they could do something with the game that made it a little bit more approachable for people like me who don't necessarily, like, I don't need an uber powerful build, but I would like to be able to put together builds that are viable without being some kind of a meta thing that everybody's trying to go after, right? And I feel like if you don't, you're either going to go with a build that's from somebody who really knows what they're doing, because you need to know what you're doing to have even halfway as decent of a build, or you're going to put together something and you're just going to get your ass handed to you. There's no middle ground, it doesn't seem like, for somebody like me who has a passing understanding of how everything works, but I still can't seem to figure out how to put a build together that takes me well into maps or anything like that, and that kind of sucks. So I'd like to see a little bit of a change that makes it easier for us to kind of approach that. But outside of that, like I said, the vast majority of the game I'm just really happy with, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future. I'm looking forward to Acts 5 and 6. I'm looking forward to the new classes. What I'm waiting for, I know a lot of people are waiting on the Druid. I don't personally care about the Druid that much. I'm looking forward to the Shadow. The Dagger. I'm really hoping that in this game we finally get the Dagger run around and stab people in the face over and over again build that I never was able to get out of Path of Exile 1, because you always had to end up doing either a dagger and shield or a sword and a shield or something like that, and I was never able to get the dagger, get up, melee, stab. And I'm really hoping that they add that in this game, because man, I really want it. So yeah. Anyways, that's my long, rambly thoughts on the current state of Path of Exile 2. Mostly positive. A few things they need to fix. One major thing is just, they need to decide on how they want fighting to go. They still have a little bit of a dissonance between, the old style of mobbing you with a bunch of stuff versus meaningful combat. I think they're still trying to figure out which side they're going to align on. It doesn't feel like it's decided quite yet, but, hopefully they'll get there. So, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Join as a member for early access to videos, among other perks, or you can just leave YouTube's version of a tip with the thanks button. I also have PayPal and Patreon links if you'd like to go outside of YouTube to contribute to the channel. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you for the next one.